Hi, welcome back, everybody. We're back now with Kara's Cures. We often talk about physical and emotional health, but what about spiritual health?
So our next guest says that spirituality can really help you build a life of meaning and contribution, and also change your health. Joining us in studio is New York Times bestselling author and clinical psychologist and scientist, Dr. Lisa Miller. She's actually the founder and director of the Spirituality Mind-Body Institute. It's the first Ivy League graduate program and research institute in spirituality and psychology. I think that's where I need my master's. I think I need to apply. Thank you for being here.
Well, Karen, Scott, you seem spiritual to me already.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. We appreciate
I
that.
walked in and I saw sparkly eyes and I thought, there's a spiritual heart alive and well in these two wonderful people. So spiritual health by the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, has come to be told one of the 4 pillars of health: physical health, mental, social, and spiritual health.
It's amazing.
When you talk about spiritual health, can you just can you help me out here? What is it?
Right. So, particularly in times of difficulty, to be able to say, okay, I'm not getting what I want. I'm maybe even going through a really painful time. I may have even faced an awful trauma, but there's a deeper presence in and through my life. Some of us use the word God. Some people say, Jesus or the universe or whatever one's word is. But to be in a relationship with our higher power, when that is firm and strong, it is our greatest resource for recovery.
So you have a new book out, which we're going to take a dive in on the Kara's Cures podcast, but it's called The Awakened Brain.
The Awakened Brain.
There's so much science in here. Talk about when you were doing these studies that nobody thought would yield anything, and then literally jaws dropping because MRIs showed differences in brain structure depending on one's spiritual health.
So we had a number of years of good MRI studies that show the structure of the brain when it came to depression. And a lot of people would say, depression, that's biological. But spirituality, that's just kind of some feeling, and people even called it an airy-fairy thing. Well, it turned out that when we actually took the lens of the MRI machine and pointed it at the human brain, there are neurocorrelates for spiritual awareness. And these neurocorrelates, these regions of the brain that go hand in hand with our spiritual connection to our higher power, are in every single person. Every one of us is a naturally spiritual person with an awakened brain.
So
There are practices to awaken.
If we do our part.
If we do our part.
Right.
And that involves?
So to your point, Scott, the brain is there ready and willing to go, but whether it's prayer or meditation, for some people it is religious observance, for others it's a walk in nature. But we do need to build the muscle, because while spirituality is inborn, it's 1/3 inborn, 2/3 environmentally built. So we really do need to do our part to strengthen our natural birthright if we want to have this ultimate source of connection and resilience.
What I love is that this is moving into the world of Ivy League education, of scientists, because there was a lot of woo-woo, we don't talk about spirituality, we don't even want to look at, this isn't stuff we study. But what you're finding is that it has a huge impact, which is so important right now with the mental health crisis going on. There's correlation between improvement in mental health and depression and anxiety. There's a correlation there for spiritual health.
So as you know, we are facing an epidemic in Gen Z, and it's an epidemic of the diseases of despair, depression, addiction, and the #1 form of death in high school is suicide, along with auto accidents. So this is a moment of crisis, and it turns out that every parent needs to know, when we build our spiritual core in our children, they are 80% protected against addiction. They are 70% less likely to take scary risks, like hurl down the highway at 90 miles an hour. And to the epidemic, a strong spiritual life, when it's shared, is 82% protective against completed suicide. If I said, here's a pill, and you can give this to every kid in your family, every child in your classroom, and it's 4/5 protective against the #1 killer of youth, who wouldn't give that child the pill?
Who wouldn't do
But
that?
spirituality is all of ours.
Right.
I love the fact that you said it could be either praying or a walk in nature, because some people are not religious.
That's right.
But they still can be spiritual despite the fact that aren't religious.
So about 2/3 of people in our country would say that they are religious, whether they're Hindu or Catholic or Jewish, whatever their tradition may be. but every single person is spiritual.
And
According to our brain scans.
According to our brain scans, according to genotyping studies, according to long-term clinical course studies, no matter what lens we use, we are all spiritual beings, 7.2 billion spiritual beings on Earth.
well, we have to leave it there, but you're going to dive deeper, Kara, which is just a fascinating topic.
Definitely download the Kara's Cures podcast. You can reach Lisa at lisamillerphd.com. We're going to take a deep dive. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It's so great to meet you.
So wonderful to meet you both.
Same. Thank you so much for coming in.